Hey everybody, Bearded Rogue here, and today I wanted to talk about prototyping and rapid prototyping specifically. Something that Chevy Dodd did a video series on last year really kind of inspired a change in the way that I do a lot of my game design. So sometimes you already have a mechanic or a mechanism, whatever term you prefer, in mind, or sometimes you have a theme in mind and you just start playing around with stuff. Um, and both of those are totally valid strategies. Wherever you start is wherever you start. And I've had different things for different games. For example, Kick-Ass and Chew Bubblegum was inspired by They Live, and so we just came up, okay, so what could a game about They Live be about, or what kind of things would show up in that kind of thing, and then we brainstormed and then we put some stuff together. Some of the others, like Build the Robots, actually were like, wow, we've got this really neat assembly line mechanic that existed in my previous game Elements. What could we do with this? Like, if the game was about this was the fun part of the game and what we focused on, what would that be? And Build the Robots kind of came out of that. So I've done both ways. But one of the first games that I've ever kind of approached in a totally different manner is this game, which I showed this deck online the other day. Let me find the other... Let me make sure I find one example of each card. So, I had a dream about a game called Circles, and go ahead and show you the cards here. So we got 1s and 2s and 3s and 4s and 6s. So I had a dream about this game Circles, and in the dream we were playing Circles. I have no idea what the rules to Circles are. I just know that in the dream we were sitting around and we were play testing it, and it seemed to be a, lightweight card game that we were just playing, similar to Uno in a lot of ways, in that we were playing cards in order to complete circles. So, like, this would be one piece of a circle. This is basically 30 degrees, and each thing is that many times whatever number it is. So, of course, you'd need 12 instances of 30 degrees. So, you'd need 4 of these cards in order to complete a circle. You'd need, 3 of these. You'd need 2 of these, just as examples. Like, this is probably the clearest one. You need 2 of these cards to complete a circle. And so the game was kind of like a shedding game like Uno, in that you were playing cards from your hand, and if you played a card to the circles in the center and you didn't complete a circle, you would redraw a card. If you did complete a circle, that card would be gone for your hand, and the first person out of cards won. That was the original, dream version of the game, as far as I can tell from what I can remember. But I just was immediately, possessed with this idea. So I contacted John, my co-designer, and went, hey, we need to design this game. And so my initial version was just me writing numbers of degrees on cards. So I had, 30-degree cards and 60-degree cards, etc., etc. And John saw that and went, well, that's functional, but here, let me whip up something in Nandek. And as the Nandek master, he went ahead and created this format as the way that we're going forward with it. But we messed around with the Nandek version digitally quite a bit. Found out that the shedding game was a little bit weird, like the decisions were kind of very scripted. I mean, if you look at Uno, the decisions in Uno are pretty scripted as well, so that's not uncommon for a game of that type. You wanted to play the largest card that you had if it completed a circle. If not, you wanted to play the smallest card that you had so that other people couldn't complete circles and it was more likely to get back around to your turn. That was pretty much it. It was very scripted play and kind of boring. But I didn't want to just kill this idea because the game that came to me in a dream was not a good one. The deck is still interesting to me. There's exactly enough of each card to complete 2 circles using exclusively that kind of card. So there are 24 ones, There are 4 of the 6s. So if you use exclusively cards of the same type, you can complete 2 circles of each type. So there's a lot of 1s, which is convenient because they're the ones that are good for filling in gaps. There's fewer 6s, and they're divided that way in between. But interestingly enough, it ends up being exactly 54 cards, which is another interesting thing about just this game and this idea in general, is that it somehow just ended up working that way, being 54 cards and being divided this way. It could easily be 1s, 2s, 3s, 4s, and 6s, instead of using the images of the circles, and then 12 is the magic number, wherein you have to hit in order to complete a set. And who knows, maybe that's the direction it'll go in. Maybe it won't stay as circles. But just one of the things I would heavily encourage you to do is get games out of your head. Create a prototype. Like I said, even if it's just writing things on cards, on index cards. Get it out of your head and get it to the table. It's the fastest way to discover whether or not it works. Like in this case, the initial idea didn't work. It's also a way to experiment with things and try different things. So, like, I'm going to be bringing this Circles deck with me to Gen Con. I don't know if it'll ever hit the table. I don't know if we'll ever even mess around with it. But it's one of those things where it could be fun to just pull out with other designer friends and brainstorm, how does this game work? Like, these are our design constraints. We have this 54-card deck. What do we do with it? And, you know, eventually the game could develop various themes. It could be about pizza, or it could be about pie, or it could be about, you know, anything you can think of that's a circle that's subdivided. You could potentially do it. It could be pie charts instead, you know, looking economic-wise. I don't know. I don't know what it's going to end up being. I just know that now I've got this cool little deck of cards to play around with and brainstorm with that otherwise I wouldn't have had. And maybe something will come out of it, maybe it won't, but at the very least I'll learn something by actually making the prototype and getting it to the table. So that's pretty much it. Circles, I'll have it on me at Gen Con. Don't know if it'll be at all good or not. I'll let everybody know if anything ever comes of it. I'm sure you'll hear about it if you follow me on Twitter or subscribe to this channel. But that's about it for today, guys. I'll talk to y'all later. Bearded Rogue, out.